Hello,
Okay.
thank you very much for joining me and spending your time for this interview.
You're welcome.
Could you please tell me about you, a few words and your field?
So
And
I am an HR professional with over 15 years of experience. I have worked in several multinational companies. I have experience in British American Tobacco, in Coca-Cola. Currently, I'm working in Kareem, which is first unicorn of the region. By region, I mean Middle East and North Africa. I have been with Kareem for 5 years. This is my sixth year with them, and I have been working in the capacity of HR business partner. So I look after everything from when the colleague starts their journey to the day that they leave, and I translate business strategy into people strategy.
and you're originally from Dubai or well,
I am from Pakistan, but
from
currently based in Dubai.
Pakistan? Yeah, Dubai is very international city.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is.
yes. Well, let me start with the questions for the topic then. We're going to discuss the conflicts in a team. And my first question I would like to ask is how important, in your opinion, is a conflict resolution, and what role has a conflict in a team? Uh,
I think when any team is gets together, either they are working from the beginning, it's a new project that can cause conflict, or it's a new member who joins the team, the dynamics of that team change. And anything within those dynamics can cause conflict, whether it is how to do a project, how to approach a certain topic, how a certain person speaks can also be a source of conflict. So I believe that conflict is the natural result of humans working together, and it's very important for us to observe conflict very closely and figure out how to solve it, because only when the individuals in a team are working closely together, they understand each other and trust is there, then a team can become a high performing team.
right. And what what, in your opinion, is the main source of conflict in teams?
In my experience, lack of trust is the main source of conflict. That will cause further conflict when it comes to how to approach a topic, how to do a project, what timelines to give, all of that. But if there's trust, anything else that might come the way of the team, they will be able to resolve it together.
Mhm. And how do you usually deal with them? With the if any conflict arises, how do you deal with that? Is there any
So
specific, yeah, any specific procedures? So
yeah.
in
So
your,
I have a very set kind of a process in which I resolve conflict. So I try to, number one, keep a very neutral stance. Then my process basically includes, number one, I don't form an opinion by just talking to one person. I will speak to several people in the team. Whoever comes to me with the complaint, or if I observe something, I will go to that person myself and I will ask them what the issue is. And if so, by the way, the trust that the HR business partner has with that team also is very important, because if they trust me, only then they will come to me with an issue. Only then they will answer my questions if I ask them. So I will then go to that person and I will try to understand what the issue is. And since I work very closely with my teams, most of the times I understand their personalities very well. I understand what might trigger a certain individual, what is their working style, whether it is an issue because somebody new has joined the team, whether it's an issue which already exists in the team and wasn't resolved. So I'll try to establish the source of conflict. That's number one. Number two is that I'm investigate the issue. So as part of in the team, including the managers, including their stakeholders, including the people who are actually involved in the conflict itself. So through that, I will be able to build a much more holistic view of what the conflict is. Sometimes even I am blindsided with why a conflict arose. Sometimes even I might not be aware of certain dynamics that are happening within the team. So talking to all of those people actually helps me establish where the conflict is actually coming from. Then the third part is how to resolve that conflict. So in formal processes, by formal process, I mean if somebody comes to me and they say, I want to file a complaint, then it becomes a very different procedure. But if it's an informal issue where somebody comes to me and they're like, I don't want to file a complaint, but I'm facing this issue, I need your advice in order to address this issue, what should I do? And how can you help me? In that case, it's a very different approach. So first I will cover the informal process and then I'll go towards the formal process. So in the informal process, once I have understood the source of the conflict and I have the perspective from everybody who's involved in that situation and a few other stakeholders who might not be directly involved but would have an insight into that situation, I would then form an opinion in terms of how to approach that topic. That opinion might include XYZ person needs to change the way that they're working. So it could involve coaching that individual, speaking to that individual, ensuring that that person has a relevant training that they need in order to change their behavior. Second thing can be that it's an issue of maybe it's a very pressured situation. Everybody's under pressure, so nobody's really able to perform the way that they want to. In that situation, I would reach out to their manager, their supervisor, help them understand that the team is suffering because of the timelines, because of the way that the work is being managed, and try to get to a solution where the team feels less pressured, where the timeline is either extended or where some of them who are feeling really stressed out actually are sent on leave to be able to de-stress. A part of that can also include me asking those individuals to seek out therapy or asking them to have a discussion with me or anybody closer to them, whether it is at home or at work. So just allowing them to understand that there are several options that are available to them that can be used if it's an informal conflict. Usually when I have these conversations, a lot of the people are aware of what the issue is, but they're so involved in the issue that they're not able to really see the forest from the trees. So they cannot rise up the situation and see that there are very simple solutions which exist in order to how to solve that situation. So me talking to them kind of helps them realize that, and they already know what to do. It's just that they're not really able to see that solution in front of them. In case of a formal conflict, it can then take a very different turn, because then I have to open a case against that individual, whoever is the source of the conflict, or I have to open a case to resolve that issue at a larger scale. So if it is a formal conflict, then I will have to inform and involve my compliance team. I will have to make sure that my legal is involved, and everybody and every decision that I'm taking is along the lines of the legal compliance as well as the company's compliance policies. In that case, I will ask that person to write to me and send a formal complaint. And then all of the interviews that I have taken become the part of the investigation, formal investigation. And then I will write a report. That report will include this is what is happening within the team. These are the reasons. These are the actions that I recommend. Those actions can then take several forms. If it is a personal, individual level conflict, for example, let's take an example of racism. If it is an issue of somebody being biased against somebody, if it is a policy violation, then the reprimand will just not be a discussion. It can be something way more than that, which can be terminating an individual, which can be sending a written warning to them. It can also be stopping their promotion. It can be reducing their current level, demoting them within the organization. It can be moving an individual from that team to another team as well. So that's how the process usually goes for conflict resolution within teams.
Right, yeah.
However,
Yes.
I do want to add, however, sometimes the conflict is such that it's storm issue. So what that means is that I'm sure you are already aware of this, but sometimes teams, when they come together, they're not able to build that trust. That's the norming stage of the team. And then in the forming stage, they go through the conflict and then they become a strong team together. So if it is that kind of issue, then there's no action that needs to be taken in form of a warning or something really serious.
Mm.
However, something positive needs to happen in order to ensure that the team starts working together and they start trusting together. So I'll give you an example of a team that I've just done this for. So one of the leaders has just joined the organization, and the team that he's now looking after was a very distributed team. So they have like 4 different teams which had never worked together, and 4 different levels of leaders within that team. So as soon as this leader joined the team, I could see a lot of conflict brewing within that team, lack of trust, and which was again norming and storming stage of that team, nothing really serious that needed an action against anybody. So what I did was I took them on a team building exercise where I put them in like through very rigorous activities where they had to do obstacle courses, where they had to like a lot of things where they were working together with each other, but in a very fun way, which got them to realize that we all have the same goal, same agenda, and we need to just work together towards it. And it also helped them understand each other in a much more informal setting, getting to know each other. And after that whole day, when they came back, a lot of people reached out to me and they were like, there were so many people in this team that I had never spoken to. I just knew their name. I only worked with them. I didn't know them as an individual. And I'm so glad you did this. Now I know them better as a person. And within 2 weeks, I could actually notice the difference in the way that the team was working. So there can be different approaches, the way that you approach a conflict. I think it's important to realize what the root cause is. It doesn't always have to be something very serious. It can be a fun way to resolve the conflict as well.
Right, yeah. I had 10 questions and you already answered a few of them.
Okay, amazing.
Very extensive answer. Thank you very much. So, yeah, what conflicts are could be avoided? What conflicts are productive in your experience, like that can lead to productive results? You mentioned some of them are resolved by themselves, but how they reach that in the team, or something needs to happen. You mentioned something needs to happen positively so they can
Yeah.
go through the conflict and grow and
Yeah.
achieve.
Yeah.
So maybe it's common goal, or
Common goal.
how does it happen usually?
I think there are 2 aspects to it. One is the organizational aspect, which is where we define teams very goal based and objective based, where anyone who's working on the same goal is a team, right? And then there's an OB, organizational behavior perspective, which talks about how do individuals behave when they come together. So one is just goal based target, goal based team. And the other is where individuals come together because they're working together. And that is how do they behave, understanding of that. And that can also raise conflict. So I think when we talk about what kind of conflict can be productive, first we have to understand. Again, I would go back to that point that what is the source of the conflict? It is the behavior. Is it the behavior of the team? Is it the fact that everybody is not aligned with the goal? They're not actually a team because they're not working towards the common goal. Or the goal has already been defined, but everybody doesn't feel fully aligned or they don't have a full ownership of that goal. So the kind of conflicts which can be productive can be on either side of the spectrum. However, when it comes to human behavior, it becomes much more difficult to identify the conflict. It becomes much more difficult to get people to kind of calm down to realize what is it that they need to do in order to solve that conflict. So when it is a goal-based conflict, in that case, it becomes quite easy for manager to just have a discussion with that individual, or for me to have that discussion with the individual and identify, okay, you are not aligned with this goal because maybe you think this work is not important, or you think that this work is not going to lead to success, or we all think that it's going to lead to success because of XYZ reasons. So it can be quite an easier conversation. But when it comes to human behaviors, I always say this to people that if there are two individuals together, there is going to be politics, right? So when people are working together, you can't really pinpoint as easily what can cause the conflict. It can be personalities, it can be I don't like their working style. This person is nocturnal, they like to work at night, but I'm an early riser, I like to work in the morning. I like my work-life balance. Oh, I don't care about work-life balance. I can work at night, during the day, anytime. I'm always on call, etc.
Yes.
So I think productive conflict can be on either side. It's just that we as HR professionals have to really understand how to approach those conflicts. I have so far never in organization specifically, until it is downright bigotry or racism, I have never seen a situation which cannot be resolved.
Very positive, optimistic statement at the end. Yes, yes. Yeah, well, I'm not going to cover. You already mentioned some things. The root causes of the conflicts, which can be based on personalities and goals in the company and targets.
Or ways of working. Yeah.
Yes. Also, it's a long topic for cultural diversity. Probably you know more. We don't have much time now to ask all my questions.
No, no, you can
you
go ahead.
already covered.
You can
Yes,
ask your questions. I have time. I'm not doing anything, so we can extend the time as well.
but I oh, so if it's based on personality, it's difficult to be resolved. Is what I understood. It can be just adjusted, right? Your the different personalities to each other, and with open communication, with understanding and respect each other.
I think when it is a personality-based conflict, it's very difficult to change. It's very difficult to ask somebody to undo years of learning that they have done in their life in terms of what works for them and what doesn't work with them, just because they're in a team and they're in an organization together. So, and also people are not very receptive to hear that, okay, it's your behavior which is causing this conflict, right? So nobody would want to hear that. So it becomes a game of how you're going to maneuver that conversation, how you're going to help them understand. There can be several things that you can do in that as well. So I will give you one example of the situation that I was in. I was personally working in this organization in my career where my manager was a source of conflict between the rest of the team. So I was there were three other people, and my manager would constantly, he would not be able to handle pressure well. So he would just pass it on to all of us, causing us all to be stressed out all the time, not being able to trust each other, not being able to really work together as a team. So an exercise that I did with them was, and I and all of the other colleagues knew that the problem was actually the manager and his behavior, right? So it's become so difficult when it's somebody who's senior to you, somebody who has the power over your performance management, somebody who has the power over your increment, your promotions, all of that. So what I ended up doing was that I told the team that we're going to go and we're going to go do a strategy session together, just to align on what is it that we're going to work for the next of the year. But before we started that session, I told all of them that first of all, we're going to do a reflection on how we have been working. In that reflection, I asked them, very simple exercise. I asked them to write down few things that they think we should continue doing in the next year, few things that I think that they should stop. We as a team, not an individual, we as a team should stop doing in the next year, and few things that we think we should continue doing. And that was anonymous. Like they had post-it notes and they just kept on posting it on the board. That gave them the power to say things that they couldn't say on the face of an individual, right? So that gave them power to say, okay, let's plan the deadlines better. Let's not pressurize each other. If a problem comes, let's work together as a team to solve them. And there were several things that also came and continue doing. There were several things that came in start doing as well. So when that activity ended, I took all of those notes and I then discussed with the rest of the team and said, these are the things that we're going to do in the next year, and these are ways of working for us as a team. No matter what the company, how everybody else is working in the organization, we are going to work together this way. If thought alone, because we feel that we are not a team, we're going to work together as a team. We're going to be on time, and we're going to respect it when somebody's family is needs them more than the work. So we wrote down these ways of working, and we all agreed that this is how we're going to work in the next year. So next time when a certain situation came where the manager was trying to pressurize rest of us, we had those ways of working to say to them, this is how we agreed that we're going to work together. I'm sorry, the situation right now is not conducive.